Hey guys, this is RPGcaster once again for the first time in a billion years, and I am here to give you a deck check. Yeah. So this is the Coco build. I'm sure a lot of you who have tried to build this deck or have looked at this deck a little bit are probably looking at this build and thinking I am a complete idiot, but hopefully I can help you understand some of the method to my madness. First off, the trigger lineup, very heavy on the crits. I'm running 10 crits, because this deck is basically a beatdown deck. Your main focus, of course, of the deck is Scarlet with yourself over here, and she will be your big star. I'll explain a lot of that a bit later. So running 10 crits, 2 stands, and 4 heals. The stands, I think, are actually really good. A lot of Oracle users don't use the stands, but I personally think that they can catch your opponent off guard. On the event that your opponent doesn't have any non-grade zeros to guard with, the Tom can be a big threat with this. And I'm only running 2, both because I find that the crits are more useful in this style of deck, and at the same time, only having 2 stands, it's easy to keep track of how many I've seen, how many I haven't, and I can weigh out the risk versus reward kind of thing when it comes to attacking with other units first. Little Witch Lulu is pretty self-explanatory. It's your starter for the deck, and basically all you're going to be doing with this is you ride your grade 3, you pull it out, Soul Blast 2 and draw 1. So it's kind of a luck bird, a 5k luck, basically a grade 0 luck bird that comes out of Soul. I really don't see how the Bermuda clone was a 3k and it didn't have that additional ability of coming out of Soul. But yeah, it's really stepped up. Really good card, and not only playable in this deck, very playable in many other decks. 4 vanillas, getting to my grade 1s, 4 Geminis standard. The 8k helps Tom hit the 16 mark, it helps your Soufflés hit the 20k mark, and it helps your Scarlet Witch hit the 21k mark. All key numbers when it comes to hitting. And in terms of beatdown decks, it's not just senseless beatdown. You need to be able to manage your field. As simple a concept as this seems, to be able to maximize your damage of output, your output of damage, I guess. 3 nulls because, well, 7 grade 3s, 3 nulls is the standard number. I don't like saying stuff is standard, but that's pretty much all there is to it. 4 would be too much and clog up the hand. 2 might be a bit too little. I actually think you probably could run 2 in this deck, and I'll explain why later, but 3 of those. 2 Truth Watchers to eject 1 soul. She gets rid of the soul, but in the event that you need to ride again, for example, I originally ride a Soufflé, and I use the Scarlet Witch on top of that to get this ability, I'll be able to eject that 1 soul with Truth Watcher. I don't run this heavily because it's only a 6k, and its ability isn't like what you run it for. You run it for the cost of the ability. A lot of players would play this heavily because they'd be focused on getting 0 soul, and I don't really like the idea of doing that. I'd rather run bigger kind of supporters like 8Ks and your 7Ks. Coming down to Emerald Witch, by the way, a lot of people disagree with me about this card. However, when it comes to Scarlet Witch's ability, which is Counter Blast 2 when you have 1 or less soul and draw 2, when you combo that out of Lulu, which I guess I'll run through later, you will be drawing 3 cards at the same time, and there will be cards that you probably won't need. If you're fishing for an attacker, that's a good thing to play. It's just like a Petal Fairy that doesn't require you to hit. A very useful thing to have. I'll go over the basics of the deck once I finish explaining each card, but that's basically what she's there for. Additionally, you have your Omelets for 7k supporter, but if you have 0 soul, which should be a lot of the time with this deck, it will become a 10k beat stick. 10k beat stick being important because Lulu herself is only a 5k, you'll be getting her on the field for free. You might as well use her, and a 10k or an 11k, as we'll see later, will be very useful, and welcome addition to the deck. Moving on to the grade 2s, and I hope I am not talking too fast for the future self of myself that is editing it. Excellent use of grammar right there. Three Silent Toms. Silent Tom is the biggest threat in terms of hitters when it comes to oracles. If your opponent's stuck with a hand full of triggers, it's going to be the card that they fear. So 3 of those you don't want. I don't really like running 4 because it's only an 8k, and Gemini, when you're attacking an 11k, will be the only thing that will be able to get Tom to hit that 16k mark. So 3 I think is a pretty balanced number, again with the nulls, but I think that's a good number to run with the Silent Toms. Morka's obviously your 11k hitter. Again, as I said, combos nicely with the Lulu. I gotta get these names right. Basically combos well with Little Witch. You basically stick this to the side, you can pull her out, and you got yourself a nice 16k little kind of column there. Almost lost my train of thought. 4 Promised Daughters. Now, I am kind of debating against myself about this. I might cut it down to just 3 Promised Daughters and keep the one as a Morka or something. Promised Daughter I think is a really, really good card, and one that is probably overlooked a lot. Basically, when it attacks, you can drop any Oracle card from hand, and it gains 5k. Obviously, the downside being you don't want to be dropping stuff from hand. However, this deck has an amazing potential for hand power with Coco and Lulu, and you want to make the best of it. A lot of decks have that weakness where they can draw a lot, but they don't have really substance behind it. Promised Daughter is a 9k. 9k is obviously a standard beater and not much of a problem, and with its ability, a 14k beat stick. I know it is kind of a heavy card to play in terms of hand power, but it is not the kind of thing you will always be using. You'll be using it when you're trying to push for like a crit, or if you're attacking something that you really know your opponent wants to keep. You're basically going to use that card to force cards out of your opponent's hand or to finish them off, and that's really what Promised Daughter is there for. Also, much like the nulls, if you have any grade 3s in hand that you don't want, Promised Daughter's there. You'll be able to eject them out of your hand, and basically you're not going to be able to guard with those, so losing them from hand isn't really going to be that big a deal. So that's what she's there for. Again, probably running too much at the moment. Still experimenting a bit with the deck, but that will do for now. Main of Library, everyone's going to call me an idiot for, but there are situations with this deck where you don't get your ideal your Coco, and you end up writing Souffle. Basically it's there to eat up the empty counterblast, and while Coco counterblasts 2, and you want to be using your counterblast for that, you're not always going to get more than 1 Coco off. She's just there to help out with the hand power and add a little bit of pressure to the opponent. And I don't know, Main Library is a really underused card when it comes to Oracles. I think she deserves more playtime. Moving on finally to the grade 3s, 4 Cocos. The deck needs to have the Coco as your ride. Sure, you can ride the other things and it will still be okay, but if you want the true power of the deck, you'll want to be riding Coco first up, and there's no exception to that. That's why you're running 4 to get as many as you want. You can Coco twice with this, and basically what you want to be doing is, this card's ability, as I've probably flashed up on the screen somehow, I don't know how I'm going to edit this in hindsight, is when this is in Soul, you can call it to a rearguard circle from Soul if you ride a grade 3 Oracle Think Tank. And additionally to that, when it's called to the field, which it will be being called when you ride to grade 3, you can Soul Blast 2. So when you ride Coco and you pull this out, Soul Blast 2, Coco has 0 Soul. You'll be adding this to your field, you'll be adding 1 card to hand with her effect. Coco has 0 Soul, you can activate Coco's ability, counterblasting 2, and getting an extra 2 cards in hand. And that's basically the biggest combo that this thing has. As well as that, if you do get another Coco in hand, you can ride on top. People discourage that because you will be getting Soul, and obviously Bells is the Omelette, which requires you to have 0 Soul, as well as Emerald Witch Lala, which requires you to have 0 Soul, won't be able to function. Even Coco herself won't be able to get the power boost if you don't have 0 Soul, so it's kind of discouraged. But I think you weigh up the situation. Do you want the power or the utility of this, or do you want more cards in hand? It's really up to the situation, which is why Main Library is there, because Coco is not always going to be the right option. If you think you can kind of kill them but you're worried about your hand power, Main and Libra can kind of rescue that in terms of hand power, but at the same time you're not giving up your advantage to Coco. You have your Truth Watchers, but that's not always going to be there for you, and I think it's a lot more reliable to run the heavier supporters than running more Truth Watchers because you want to eject soul. Once you have 0 soul, Truth Watchers just becomes a dead card, really. I know I'm going all over the place with this deck check, but I haven't done this in a while. So that's that. Even in the event that you ride something else, Lulu coming out and Soul Blasting 2, it's not bad. When you ride Coco, you'll still be able to use her ability. That just means you're probably going to have to rely on Truth Watcher. Battle Sister Souffle is there because she's just a really good card in the rear guard, and not too bad as a vanguard, as I've found. Hits key numbers, hits the 18 with Truth Watcher, hits the 20 with Gemini, and just, I don't know, it's just solid card for rear guard and the vanguard. Obviously your backup grade 3. And now this is going to be the one people are going to be questioning me about. This is Imperial Daughter, another forgotten card from Comic Styles 1. There are a lot of cards from Comic Styles 1 Volume Extra Booster 1. But this basically has Restraint, which is the reason why people don't want to play it. And its Restraint cost is Counterblast 1, send 1 Oracle to Soul. And when there are no units on the field besides itself as the Vanguard, it loses Restraint automatically and gains 10k and 1 crit. Obviously a very good early game pressure, good alternate Vanguard while waiting. But as well as that, I wanted to play around with the idea of riding her, pulling this thing out, Soul Blasting 2, drawing a card, and then using her Restraint release cost to send her right back in. Then when you get Coco or something else after Soul Charging 1, probably a Psychic Bird or something, you can bring Lulu out again and Soul Blast 2 again. I know it's a bit greedy, but that's only a bonus. Imperial Daughter is a great card to ride as an alternate at the start because, like, early game, people aren't going to be wanting to guard a 21k thing and lose their hand power. And, like, if you do get the odd crit while she's sitting there early game, it can be devastating to your opponent. So that's basically it. That's not much else to talk about with this deck. Matchups wise, it does well mostly. In terms of the deck's running, what you'll be aiming for is as soon as you get Scarlet Witch on the field and get this out, you'll want to pull out a full field. Your ideal field at grade 3 would be you ride her, pull her out, Soul Blast 2, play a Gemini or a 7k behind her, and then get maybe a column, a threatening column like a Gemini and a Souffle or a Gemini and a Tom, and then in front of her stick an Omelette or a Mocha or something else. Yeah, and that's what Lala's really there for, because sometimes, you know, you're going to draw and you'll want to drop that field and put that advanced beat down, which is what this deck really shines at, and you won't have the units for it. So dropping this, you can ditch one of your, like, useless cards, like even if it's a 10k shield, you can ditch that and maybe get a Silent Tom, or ditch that and maybe get like a Gemini to support with. It's just a really, really, really good card, and a lot of people are overlooking it. But yeah, to me, listening to myself talk, this isn't a very good deck check. But hopefully I'll be able to put out better stuff, and I hope I've made you guys think at least a little bit about this Coco build. Yeah, that's that. Keep in mind, this deck is as of set 7. I don't want to be at set 12 and have people saying, why aren't you playing this card, because it just doesn't exist at the time of this video. It happened when I did my Tsukiyomi deck check. And I don't know, if you have any comments or questions about the deck, feel free to ask it. Like I said in my update video last time, I'm going to be taking question and answer videos and hopefully like answering some of you guys' questions. And you know, this isn't the only right way to build the deck. You know, not everyone's build will work well for everyone. Certainly I could be running Glaze, I can be running Wise Man, but you know, this kind of deck build really suits me best. And you know, if you have any disagreements, feel free to post them in comments below. Maybe there's something I'm missing with the deck, and I don't know. But yeah, hopefully this will be a start to my comeback. I'm going to get into Necro cards as soon as I can and start recording matches and deck checks with the other guys for you to see. I'm sure you're sick of me ranting and raving about oracles all the time, but that is what I play. So before my throat dies, I'm going to say goodbye. This is RPGcaster signing off. And if there are any other decks that you'd like me to review with my friends and stuff, please give me a yell out in the comments. If there's any other kind of videos you want to see from me, and give a yell as well. And on that note, after saying I'm going away about 5 times, I'm actually going to go away. So see you guys next time.